Okay, what do y'all think about spaceships?
Well, I mean, I could go on. I had a dream once that there was a red one over my bedroom, and I was just about sucked in.
Sucking in. That's what we're gonna go with.
It was. So my cheeks were like when I woke up. I was like,
That's not good.
not in a good way. You know what I'm saying?
Not in a good way. Not sucked off in a good way.
Oh my God, Karli, is this going to be one of those priest episodes?
Harlot moment.
I'm trying to think of the movie that said that. Everybody got
It
sucked
was.
off.
It was one
What
of
was that
the.
movie?
It was. Well, no. Listen, it was one of the old episodes that we took off. But she said while we were talking about it, she says it's like I'm gonna get down on all fours and something about a priest. I was like, wait, what?
I said it's when you kneel in front of a priest and go, ah, for the wafer.
Oh, yes.
That's what I said.
I remember that.
And thus came
Open up
Harlots
wide.
of Spooktalk. Oh my God.
Oh, you thought you got away?
All right, so we're going to start with Roswell, New Mexico. I'm going to be talking about the UFOs, the aliens, and a little bit about the history first. So let's get into that. Now, I personally live 45 to 55 minutes away from Roswell in a really small town called Artesia. And when I got here, I totally forgot about Roswell being Area 51. So now here we are. It's just so many different things, but I'm going to just start off with what happened in Roswell in Area 51 is considered to be one of the most controversial events in American history because around, I want to say June 1947, there was a sheep rancher by the name of Mac Brazil found, now he's a rancher, he's a sheep farmer. You see this right here, this picture is the welcome sign when I'm coming from my town into Roswell. Everybody who comes to Roswell will see this first. This is right before you hit the main town, So this is their welcome sign. And obviously you see plenty of spaceships and things there in town. But it all started on June 1947. Like I said, Mac Brazil, I want to say that right, but he was a sheep rancher, right? He called in to the police station. Actually, no, he called into the military base that was there at the time. He called in a wreckage that had been on his property. Now, this guy here, we have the picture up right now. He was a major. Let me see what's his. I have his name right here. Give me one sec. Major Marcel. This guy had very good archaeological background. He was very good with maps and things like that, and he got into the military. Now, when they opened I want to say, I think it's 509 base over there, they had originally went to New Mexico and started a very elite military base there where they were going to be trial testing bombs, scientific things, and things that should have been done in the desert, This guy was one of the people who just happened to be on that military base and high ranked there. So when the sheep farmer called in, he actually didn't call the police. He called the military base to tell them that he found some stuff that looked like it had been like a wreck there, right? Just this is what was said. Now, Mr. Mack, who was the sheep farmer, said that he had seen these types of metals. A metal that seemed very thin, very lightweight. Anytime you bent it or crushed it, it went back to its form. You could not destroy it with heat or fire. So when he calls these guys in, this is the major that they sent. They sent Major Marcel to that area where the man's farm or ranch was. And I thought this was so crazy. I don't even know how I didn't know this. But in learning about what was going on, Major Marcel was the first American official on the scene in Roswell in 1947. So after the farmer makes a call to them, he calls them because he knows he don't need to call the cops, he needs to call them. So when he calls them, what happens is they find what they think would be alien craft material that had fallen into his ranch. So Marcel and another man who met him there, I think he was another military person as well. They both collect a couple of samples and throw them in boxes. Now Marcel has 2 boxes he puts in his car, and the other guy is still checking things out. They were both going to make it back to the military base, and before Marcel went to the military base, he took a big risk going home to his wife and his son to show him these materials. Now, the son can later explain as those materials to be the same way, very light, almost like a foil-like type of material, but the metal was very, very strong. And then he also explained seeing what we would call now fiber optics in the 1940s. See, fiber optics didn't come out to the 1970s, but when he brought these materials home, what the little boy explains now would have been optic fibers to us now back in the 1940s, which definitely was not something that they knew. Now, this picture that we pull up here is a picture that some archaeological. Oh my God.
Archaeological.
Oh my God, guys. Archaeologists, that's what it was, had put together as like what it may have been like. Because what happened was not too long ago and over the last couple of years, archaeologists have gone to see and measure and check, height and distance and things like that. And what it seems like is that the earth where that ground was, where they say it had hit, does have markings inside the ground to where you can see indentions. So this is a fabricated photo made up to show what it would have looked like if it was considered to be real. Now, the paper that I showed you, after all this stuff, and it went back to the military, right? Marcel took his pieces to the military and explained, like, this is what I found, this is what it is. Well, he winds up, him and his higher up go to the newspaper and tell him to print that they found what they think would be UFO pieces. Now, they ran that paper in the Roswell, and that's where you see the Roswell Daily Records, the RAAF. This is where they let the people know this is what we found here at the rancher's house. Now, right after that, the day after they ran that paper, the next day, they had to run what you would probably call like a retraction, stating that military said that it was them who were testing out these balloon-like materials that have fallen on his ranch. Now, the rancher knows exactly what he found because that's his ranch and he saw the material first. Now, he called it in, and when Marcel went, took fragments and took pieces, took him back to the military, and the military discussed some things, and they took him to Roswell. They came back and made Mr. Marcel cover up things. So when they printed the paper to let the people know what was going on, the next day they had to retract the statement and let them know that they didn't. What was later to still be the truth came out, that they had to do a cover up because they didn't want people in the area to panic. Now, this actually happened when Marcel went in to go talk to the other higher ups. So they flew him out somewhere. I forgot where they flew him. They flew him out somewhere back in Texas. He talked to somebody. He brought the materials in. He explained to what it was. He left. When he went back in to go to explain to somebody else in the same area, there was different material there. He explained that what I brought, this is not it. This is not what I brought. They said, we're going to need you to take photos with this. We're going to need you to take a picture for the press for it. Blah, 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 blah. This is what you found. This was what they called a weather balloon that they were experimenting with, right? Okay, so they print it. All over the world had to find out that this wasn't a UFO. This was just a weather balloon that was being tested in that area of military. It was all a hoax. That's what they were trying to make people believe, and they believed it. They believed it. Now, in the 1980s, Jesse Marcel, who was the major, admitted to somebody that it was a lie. Now, everybody who was involved knew that they had to fabricate this lie so that people wouldn't, what they say, panic. But one thing that I had found out was that when the military base was there, when it first got there, it was literally in the desert for a reason. They were going to be using different areas to make nuclear warfare, nuclear things. Now, you see here, everybody always says like, oh, Area 51 is where the aliens were, la 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 la. Well, the way the military base made it out to be was that no, it has nothing to do with UFOs. We were doing military practice here. So the military tried to cover up UFOs with their training for the media, for what you would call the newspapers in, because back then it was newspaper. But what happened went completely wild when it first went out as aliens and UFOs. Now, one thing I did find out that was so crazy that I thought that I really wanted to tell you guys was that before the fragments were found on this man's ranch, by him, by the way, he's a sheep rancher. He had no reason to want what we call clout or any type of, extra attention. He's a sheep farmer who liked what he did. He was a rancher. Now, before they found these fragments, people around the area had been seeing things that they couldn't explain, that they were seeing that were like UFOs, and actually there was 70 sightings of UFOs before the call for the fragments came into this rancher's house. Now, it was 75 miles north of Roswell at that time is where they found the fragments, or where they're saying that the fragments came from that UFO. Now, when we look at the picture of the UFO, you see at the top that there's fragments. There's a whole piece of that UFO missing. They're saying that that's about the amount of pieces that the old man found on his ranch, where a little bit further up would have been where that crash happened. Because the archaeologist says that when they did the measurements and they did all these things, they found indentions still in the ground from where it looked like if a UFO would have hit, it would have had very hard pieces still there. And once they've done a lot of work on it and have put into the AI and everything like that, it shows the indentions in the earth still. So the proof is there. Whether or not they wanted to hide it or not, the proof is still there with archaeologists. Now, this picture was fabricated just to show what it would have looked like if it was in the ground where they say it was. Now, at the top, you'll see that there's some pieces missing. They're saying that as it was going down, something may have hit it and pieces fell. Now, mind you, military was sitting there practicing bombs and new things there, right? That's why they were in the desert. They didn't want nobody to be hurt. They were practicing things, and that unit were considered to be like a weapons building there. And what I found out, guys, is in that time, that's where they held the atomic bomb. You heard me, guys. The atomic bomb.
Squeeze me.
Yes. I had no idea when I was getting into this that the atomic bomb was held here in Roswell. I mean, there in Roswell. Now, I knew that these things were happening. Now, to me, my theory is while they were practicing bombs, they may have hit one of these things that crashed, and that's why it's missing pieces that got stuck on this rancher's ground over there on his land.
Wow.
That's just my theory, because what happened was, remember, I've read CIA documents on certain things, and when they're saying that the government talked to the aliens at one time, that they were worried about humans having too much technology because they were creating nuclear warfare with each other. And this race of AI didn't want us to hurt ourselves by hurting each other. Do you understand? So it all starts to come and make sense when I'm doing the research for you guys, because there was 70 sightings of what people in the area would be considered to be UFOs, crazy lights, all these spaceships that look really weird. They don't know what's going on. And then boom, this guy finds fragments. And then over here, about 75 miles, there's a crash. And everybody that was alive in that time when Marcel was around, the military went the day after. So remember, they printed that it happened. They take Marcel somewhere, they talk to him, military base talks about trying to debrief him, and then they go back and tell the people knocking on doors that this is not to be talked about, this was never happened, this was to be explained as a military base practice, that this is what they did. They were not to talk about it. So the townspeople, even now that they're old, they are very scared when people pull that conversation up. They don't want to talk about it. They're like, no, we were told not to say nothing. A lot of these people were kids when their parents this happened, you know. So even the kids being elders now in the homes and things like that where they're being interviewed, it's very, very, very touchy subject for them. Some will talk about it, some won't. But archaeologists have put the places, the areas, the times, everything there. Now, Area 51 is considered to be a military base, but then it's also considered to be a place that's not supposed to be there. But in the 1940s, there was a military base. There is still a military base, and they will not let you gain access as just normal people, as civilians. And they still try to debunk the fact that sometimes at that time, it wasn't a UFO. It was just, they're trying to say it was like a weather balloon, pretty much. Like the very first weather balloon, where they were trying to measure the outside things going on. That's what they said. But from what it looks like and from the research that I've seen, my theory is while they were bombing and UFOs were trying to figure out what was going on with us, they accidentally hit one of them. Now, there are stories from locals that are older now saying that they even saw bodies that were pulled out from this UFO. That there was bodies, I want to say 2 to 3 big, what they would call adult bodies, and then a couple of small bodies. So it must, seeing this as big as they say, it would have had to have been, in being that there was a spaceship and that it fell and that there were bodies being pulled out of it. They're saying that the military base saw it, covered it, went and scared the townspeople, because there was very little people back then there, and made sure that nothing was going to be talked about anymore. Then they had this military man go and pose for photos that were pieces of what they would have called a weather balloon at the time that was like pieced up. So mind you, he goes in with the real fragments in a box, comes out, goes back to the office, and then they have a new layout of stuff that say, we're going to have you take a photo of this for the media, for the newspaper. He's mad because now he knows that he's going to be considered to be the fall man for the lying. And he still takes the photos as a military man because he knew what he had to do, and he did it. So there's even photos of that major taking pictures with, you can tell things that he knows are not the material he found, you know? Now, like I said, a little bit later, it came out that he did speak that he had to cover it up, you know? So for me, I think this is just typical military back in the day in the 1940s, not trying to have people panic. But I mean, 70 sightings of UFOs, guys, come on. 70 sightings of UFOs, and then fragments happen. Did you really think that these folks weren't going to know?
Yeah,
I
that's a
think military
lot.
just scared them. Yeah, I think military just scared them into saying what they wanted to say.
Exactly.
And because it was back then, you know, that's just what they did. They followed, because this is the thing. The way the young kids explained the way the military treated the people there at the time about this situation was that they said that talking about it would be an act of treason. So a lot of people who got talked to, who were homeowners in that area and things like that, felt very disrespected at that time. Like, this is not the way military should be treating civilians, you know? But considering what they were trying to cover up, people took it seriously. So I can honestly say, I have lived in Texas my whole life. I have lived here 3 years, and there's a couple things here that I would consider to be weird.
Yes.
I do find that there's just an atmosphere sometimes when you go certain places, especially in Roswell, where the energy is a little different. The people are different. The food is different.
Yeah.
It's just a really, and this is the only way I can explain it. In Texas, people say keep Austin weird because I'm from Austin. That's like when we say that, we mean be your most authentic self, even if people call you weird. Be who you want to be. Okay,
Yes.
that's what Austin, Texas talks about. When I come over here, I feel like science weird, if that makes sense. Like there's just something off with the agriculture. There's just something off. Now I know I'm in the desert, but I've been in Texas. I've been in the heat. Maybe just not the dry desert, but there's just something weird, and it's unexplainable, eerie sometimes. That it's just kind of like, I see why this is Area 51 time-ish area-ish. You know what I mean? The ish is here, you know. So I mean, I don't think I'm uncomfortable to the point where I feel like I don't like being here, but I have noticed a lot of things that would be considered to be alienistic weird.
I think like alien and paranormal weird are completely different. Like the energy's a lot different. I was watching something the other day. They described like you know how like you walk into a room and you feel like an eerie feeling, but there's also like this feeling like that you're in it's like a different, someone's from a different dimension. That's the word they use.
Yes, a different timeline or a different dimension. That's exactly how I feel sometimes. Because like I said, I live 50 minutes away from Roswell, but I still go over there to shop and stuff like that, hang out. But there's just something about it sometimes where I'm just like, this is a different type of weird. Like you said, spirituality is one thing. Now, supernatural abilities, I do believe aliens have because they're such at a high frequency level. But some of us who actually are woke can understand certain things. So even me being one of those people who is woke and can understand energy and things like that very well, even me being there, it's just a very irritable feeling. Like, I don't know. It's really unexplainable until you're here. But it's not the same as when you're in a spiritual thing. Because the like we said, the change is just different. It's just it's like it's really hard to explain, but definitely weird. And it's not a spiritual feeling that we're used to, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we go, you know, when they say, okay, if you go into a place where like there's heavy ghost, it gets cold, or it gets that's a different type of heavy feeling. When you come into this atmosphere, I can be in sunlight going somewhere and I just feel very odd, not lightheaded or anything like that, just like we said, like some, like there's a little bit of fluctuation in time dimensions,
just something's
and
off.
it can something's off. Exactly. You would be able to definitely, like if you stayed here for a couple of days just as visitors, you probably wouldn't see it, but stay here for a good 7 days, you'll definitely see it, feel it, hear it, everything. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know, alien and weird is like too much for me. Like maybe it's not too much because I'm slowly getting into like a deeper level of spooky. Like I literally watched a scary movie by myself today. I'm so proud. But I don't know, like aliens freak me out. I'm not gonna lie, that's why I say I don't believe in them, because it like freaks me out. But that when I have a dream about them, it tears me up for like a month. I'm just like,
it bothers you. It does bother you.
It does. I don't know. The aliens are, because we don't know anything about them. You know,
it's the unexplained.
Like ghosts, I can handle that all day. We know what the ghosts are. We know what the spirits are. We know what can get rid of them and how to get rid of them. And you know, aliens. How do we
know how to deal with that area?
Do we spray roach spray at them? Do we like get our cross? Like, what are we doing here?
Sleeping.
I read some of the documents that show that they don't speak like we speak, that they speak telepathically. I think that right there really bothers me because I don't like anybody in my head. Well, spiritually, you can block people out of your head, but someone who has at a higher frequency who just talks like that, I wonder sometimes that if we ever meet up with them, are they going to be able to read us even when we don't want them to read us, you know?
See, that's where the
are they going to be able to see the fear?
Right. So, I mean, but wouldn't that kind of semi go into like spirits, you know? Like, sometimes they'll just talk to you like me and you are talking, and then sometimes you can hear them, but they won't move their mouth. Like they're just kind of talking to you. And it's like, or they'll give you pictures, and there's different kinds of ways to communicate with the past, you know, but an alien, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I can hear you.
I feel like aliens talk here and souls talk here. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah, now y'all got this crazy background noise.
I know.
Sorry,
I
that was.
heard
I bet
that.
there's kids out here. There's kids out here on little motorcycles in the summer right now. They're on
That's
their
what
little
she
bikes.
wants us to think. She has an alien in the house.
Yeah, so I was
Maybe.
thinking that like came out
Girl, don't tell
perfect.
me. I'm gonna go get my my.
Oh my
No,
god.
so when I think about because I was just thinking about this. Remember, Mary? I've told Mary, Karli. I don't know if I've told you this, but there's times where I have to go into other realms to find spirits to come back to their bodies when they're in comas. Like I have permission to do certain things like that.
Yeah.
Now I've never admitted that fully out there. So guys, if you're listening, don't be calling me for all this crazy stuff because I only go where I'm allowed to go. And very
Yeah.
few times I have been allowed to go into other realms because I know how and I do not abuse my gifts. Now in that time, sometimes that's when I notice like we have to talk to each other via soul to soul. I have to leave my body for a second, where no matter where I'm at, I can do this awake or asleep, and I have to go find this person who thinks that they're awake somewhere else in a different realm. Now, those are the people who are in coma. Sometimes they're lost because their body has been asleep so long they went wandering. I can find somebody who's wandering, but like I said, with permission from the gods, I'm okay. But in that time, I noticed it's a soul to soul type of thing. I have to find that person's soul. It does help me to know their name to be able to find them. And when I Mary, do you remember when I told you that I had that experience where I saw an alien?
Yes.
I heard that. Okay, Karli, I don't even know if I told you that. I had an experience where I was asleep in real time at my house in Victoria. I had just bought me this really big, nice screen TV, and I had just heard that plasma screens are considered to be portals for aliens. Like aliens know how to use those as portals. Considering that we're human, we're considered to be dumber. We don't know. Whatever. I left it on in the pink screen. I went to bed. I woke up because my soul told me to wake up. And I just happened to be asleep on my back, which I never sleep on my back. But then all of a sudden, I look at the edge of my bed to the left by my knee. There is what you would consider to be a gray, who's a short alien next to my bed, just staring at me. But I could hear its thoughts. Now I know the difference between being awake, being asleep, being a spiritual realm. I was waked. I was awoken by my soul to get up because there was a person that was in Earth, or an entity in my room that was not a visitor, was not supposed to be there. So I know my soul woke me up. I just happened to kind of do one of those wake ups, looks, like make sure I'm awake. But I heard what he was saying in my mind. So see, I can tell the difference between having to soul speak to somebody and having to have somebody telepathically speak to you, because I know I was awake. I was not on no meds. I don't even do drugs. I stopped doing drugs when I was like 12. Like I smoked a little weed to go to sleep. But other than that, like I wasn't drinking the day before. Like I wasn't taking any medication. Like I've already did what everybody's gonna say. Were you this? Did you do that? I've already expelled all that stuff because I was a perfectly normal person who went to bed sober, woke up in the middle of the night sober, saw a really weird thing, but that's the only thing. And it looked just like the one on Paul, only he had an aura around him. It was like a gray haze. So when I saw that entity there, that being there, I heard his thoughts. I was literally like talking to him here. I was like, what are you doing here? Like that's what I thought. The first thing I thought was, what the hell is this thing doing here? And then that thing spoke, but not to me, to something else. It was speaking to its higher self or higher being, but it was like, I don't understand why nobody's allowed to touch her. And then I was like, oh, we're just gonna go back to sleep on this one, God. We're gonna go back to sleep. And then I just kind of closed my eyes. I don't know how long I closed my eyes, but I know I looked and he was gone. So, I mean, and yeah, I can say, you do know gender. You do hear a gender voice. Like you hear girl or boy voice there. Either way, I know this is totally went off whack, guys, but this is some serious stuff. I don't tell everybody this because this is some things that are considered to be very, very weird.
Yeah, very personal and
but
weird.
It's definitely different when you hear somebody talking to you telepathically to when you hear somebody talking to you to your soul. That's when you know the difference between souls, spirits, and AI, artificial intelligent people. Do you understand? Like beings. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've met a reptilian one time, but I'll tell you what, those fuckers are mean. They're mean.
We will definitely get into that, like a little bit more into.
When we get into those guys,
I believe it's July or August episode where we talk about different types of aliens, and we can definitely go into more about that for sure.
Yeah. So that's it for me, guys, on Roswell, on aliens. We're gonna tap into some other stuff too.
So, the Chemo Ghost, KIMO. It's in the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and what had happened was, my friend, she goes, what happened was, so I know you're listening because you listen to our podcast, and she's probably giggling. Okay, so what happened? This was like a really big theater, very nice. Plain and simple, there was a water heater, and it explodes during one of the shows, right? And there was it say 7 were hurt, but 1 person was killed, and his name was Billy. I don't remember his last name. I'm going off in memory, so I apologize. But anyways, poor Billy passes away, right? So he is known to haunt the chemo theater. So here we go. So this is the inside of the theater. It's really big, luscious, luxurious, fancy, if you will. Yeah. So, he had passed away on the stairs, from what I remember. I know they said it was in the lobby, but or he had like enjoyed the stairs, or something that went on with these stairs, right? So, which is funny because we were talking about stairs like just the last week. So it's like always funny now we're just coming.
Chilly temple.
Yeah. So, before every show, it is said that if they don't leave a present for Billy, he will mess your stuff up. So people have
No
to leave.
way.
Yeah, they leave
Wait,
little.
is this considered to be like a theater, like theater arts, or is this like it's turned into a movie theater?
It's a movie theater kind of like.
Okay.
But so they'll leave them little
That's not
trinkets.
everybody.
They said the owner said he did an interview, and he said if the one time that nobody left him any gifts or any trinkets, he said there was 100 million things that went wrong on that stage, and it almost ended in disaster. So now it is imperative that they have to leave him gifts. It's wild to me, and so he still lingers in the theater. Let's see if I can.
Wait, do we
find
know
it.
how old he was when he passed away?
He was young. It doesn't say. But he had to been like anywhere from like 7 to 10. He wasn't very old at all.
Yeah, he didn't look too, like in the other picture, he didn't look like a
Mhm.
really big kid. He still looked like around 5 to 7.
Yeah, fairly looks like a chonk. There you go. So yeah, not very, maybe 6 years old. Going on 7. But yeah, so that is the chemo theater, or the chemo ghost. So if you ever get a chance, make sure you get your EVPs and have fun, and make sure to leave him a little prize so no more bad luck.
And where was he? Where was this theater at?
This is in Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. Okay.
Next up in New Mexico, we're going to go to Cimarron for the St. James Hotel. It was built in 1872 by Henry Lambert. Later, he changed to actually Henry. It was Henri at first, then he switched over to a Y, and was initially called Lambert's Inn. Its saloon restaurant had 43 rooms altogether, witnessed at least 26 unalivings during Cimarron's wilder days. Black Jack Ketchum, Buffalo Bill Cody have all left their mark on St. James, they say, as attested by numerous bullet holes throughout the main ceiling in the dining room. That gotta be cool to see, just saying. Before Henry made his way to New Mexico, he was a personal chef to actually President Abraham Lincoln. Upon recommendation of Ulysses S. Grant, he continued to hold position until the president was assassinated in 1865. And then he went out and he made his gold and then bought the land the hotel now sits on. So he actually struck it good out there. Finally settling in Elizabethtown, New Mexico, he opened a saloon and restaurant and gave up finding any more gold out that way. Yeah, it's kind of cool, like the little backstory of him. At this time, Elizabeth, Cimarron, New Mexico, and the surrounding areas were owned by Lucien B. Maxwell. The Maxwell land grant was the largest land grant ever made in the at this time. When Maxwell sold the 70, the new land grant company men discovered that French chef Henry Lambert was working in Elizabethtown and enticed him to come over to Cimarron to help him run this hotel. And as it was called at the time, started business in 1872, being built during a time when they say it was like really a ruckus. It was a wild, wild west back then. So basically, these walls, these adobe walls, were stained in blood way before, law and order came to this town. So that itself left some good ghost tales. A lot of people would ask when they walked in, this is the creepy part, who was unalived here the night before, may I ask? Like, guests would ask that. Like, what, like, Rough Rider or what Renegade was off the night before.
Oh my god.
Actually asked that. I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, they had like a little, but that was, Lambert himself, while at breakfast with another man, was going over how law and order was actually feeding into the hotel, the lack of it, with the gold rush and everything coming out that way. He was actually not loving the law and order, but it was lining his pockets pretty well. So basically the blood lined his pockets, if that makes sense. The saloon was wildly popular with cowboys, traders, and miners traveling along the Santa Fe Trail. The saloon did so well that Henry added guest rooms in 1880. And the hotel was considered one of the most elegant hotels west of the Mississippi at that time. Many well-known, like Wyatt Earp and his brother Morgan and their wife, spent 3 nights at the St. James and on the way to Tombstone, Arizona. Jesse James stayed there several times, always in room 14, and he would sign his alias R.H. Howard as he was sitting there. His would-be killer, Bob. Yeah, they had aliases.
They had aliases back then.
Yeah, they had aliases. Yeah, aliases. Oh, wait. Okay.
That looks pretty big, too.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
I mean, like, I really love, like, the new pictures of this one, like, the current. Like, I don't know if they renovated or what, but it's just very open and pretty.
It is. Ready for this fun fact? The killer of Jesse James, his would-be killer, Bob Ford, also stayed at the St. James at the same time he did. So they actually probably rubbed elbows at that bar before he would go off later on at Tombstone.
And kill him later.
Yep. Buffalo Bill Cody, a goat rancher, managed the Maxwell for a very short time. Annie Oakley also began to plan and rehearse her Wild West show there too. So a lot of people. Then Henry's son Fred was born. Buffalo Bill nicknamed him Cyclone Dick because he was born during a blustery snowstorm. I'm not making this up. And he was actually, yeah, I'm sorry, I was died. He asked Fred to be his godfather. As his son Fred Lambert grew older, Buffalo Bill would be one of the first to give him instructions how to use guns and train him. So he was actually trained by no other than Buffalo Bill himself. Now, Fred, his son, would spend his whole life upholding the law as the sheriff of the town. So his son kind of took over the hotel when he got older, but then said, enough's enough, and started cleaning up the streets. That being said, the ghosts that was left behind. Here's some of them. And don't forget, the railroad was also built on the Santa Fe, and people also passed away while doing that while staying at this hotel. So there's another little tidbit of what might be haunting this famous hotel. When Henry Lambert's son, Fred and Jean, replaced the roof of the Lambert, and in 1901, they found more than 400 bullet holes in the ceiling itself. 400. A double layer of heavy wood, 400, preventing anyone from sleeping upstairs from being killed. So they would shoot up after like a poker game or something, and the only thing that saved the people sleeping above them was a double layer. They did on purpose.
Oh my goodness.
It was actually one of the most luxurious hotels. Now here's some of it. It's said to remain a host of several restless spirits. Both the owners and the hotel guests will tell you that many unexplained events haunt it. Several psychics have visited the hotel and identified 3 spirits, and many others who passed through to relive their experiences in guest books. The hotel's second floor is the most active, with stories of cold spots, a smell of cigar smoke lingering in the holes, which smoking is not allowed at the hotel. Well, it now closes doors for new owners to take it over, but prior to that, it was no smoke in the hotel, but they still smelled it. A prior management said that you'll never see them, but you will feel them, and you will hear them when you spend the night here. Another report from a former owner states that she walked into the dining room and saw a pleasant-looking cowboy standing behind her in the mirror in front of the bar. The spiritual activity at the hotel has been featured on a lot of TV shows like Current Affair, Unsolved Mysteries, to name a few. Room 18 at the hotel is kept locked because it housed the ghost of an ill-tempered Thomas Wright, who was killed at his door just after winning the rights to the hotel in a poker game. Somehow that night, mysteriously, he was offed. So that room stays locked at all times.
How convenient for somebody else.
Yeah, very convenient. Win the hotel and somehow you get off that night. Having been shot from behind, Wright continued into his room and slowly bled to death, with not getting no help. Wright's angry ghost continues to haunt that room, they say, and he does not like company at all. One former owner said that she was pushed down while in the room, and on another occasion saw a ball of an angry orange light floating in the upper corner. The room holds only a bed frame without a mattress, because nobody's allowed in there, a coat rack, a rocking chair, and a bureau that has been a shrine to the Old West.
Wow. He must have really been mad about what happened.
And sitting at... I would have been too. Wouldn't y'all? Like, seriously? That's messed... I don't even know. Now, sitting atop of the bureau in this room is a Jack Daniels bottle, a basin, a pitcher, a hand of cards, an Ace Copenhagen tin, and several shot glasses. On the wall is a bad painting of a half-naked woman in this room.
Oh my.
The staff consider this room the most haunted, and people are rarely allowed to enter this room. You may not sleep in this room at all. Rumors abound that when the room was rented back in the day, several mystery deaths also occurred in this room. So they stopped renting it out. They're like, okay, we can't explain these deaths. We're done. They were just done. Now, room 17 is the epicenter of sightings of Henry's second wife, Mary Elizabeth, who is said to remain at the hotel as a protector. Mary gave birth to her children in the hotel and died there herself in December 1926.
Oh.
Allegedly, Mary's rose-scented perfume can often be smelled in her old room. Sometimes insistent tapping is heard when the window is open and will not stop until you close that window.
Doesn't like the breeze.
No, she does not. A milky, transparent woman can also be seen in the hallways. Another dwarf-like old man has been seen at the hotel. His nickname is Little Imp by the hotel staff. The spirit is very mischievous and constantly playing tricks and laughing at the staff. He is said to have stuck a knife in the floor between the two old owners of the inn. However, he's often blamed for objects that also disappear throughout the hotel, only to be found later in different locations throughout. But this is like, it's a lot of like cold spots, and everything in this historic inn. It's just, it goes on and on. Like, you can talk for hours about some of
Look
these
at how big these
hauntings.
rooms are.
This is
It's like saloon
the
rooms. You know what I'm
real.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
I really like the way. I mean, considering the way it looks now, I mean, I could only think that back then it was very luxurious too. But look, they have fireplaces. The rooms are very big. Rooms now are very, very small. This looked like a place where people like to go.
It was. And now in November 2024, the St. James Hotel closed its operations. And September 16th in 2024. However, in November, the owner sold the property to someone who would continue its historic story. So they would do want to, they might have already reopened their doors by now. And this is, if you want to look up, it's called Legends. Like, it goes over everything on legendsofamerica.com. If you want to look up some that for the story today for this hotel, for some of the key points to it.
Absolutely.
It's a
Yes,
beautiful
definitely.
hotel. It's the Wild West, guys. It's New Mexico.
I know.
We had to go into the haunted New Mexico. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I like this one. That one was cute. You know, I mean,
Not,
spooky,
I,
but cute.
yes,
You know what I
but
mean? Cute for a ghost story. You know, that
it's
one
all
was like,
old Americana at its best. The Wild Wild West. So you're
I
right. It
love
was.
it.
I feel like if I ever got rich, I'd want to buy that building
Yes.
Oh
Imagine.
my
and be
God,
like,
we
"Hey, girls,
should.
y'all want to come stay the night?"
I'd be like, okay, but we're not opening room 18.
No,
Okay.
they.
Or we're
That's
gonna go in there with a snow blower with the sage
So you
as
think
we
it's
walk in.
open?
what.
Maybe we should plan a trip to go stay there.
We should.
If they reopen,
Let me see.
yes, we should.
Yeah, if it reopened, I think that would be a good place I'd like to go to too.
Let me look.
And it's it has so many other hauntings. I didn't even cuss all the like, it's so
These
many
are just the
hauntings.
highlights.
These are just the highlights. You got
It
people
is
that
open.
passed
It-
away in poker games and stuff. It's open. It reopened.
Yeah, it reopened on December 20th of last year.
See, that's an omen for us.
Excited, we gotta go.
All right.
That was a fun one.